You always end up the quiet one in a group of 3. That is not a flaw in who you are. It is actually a sign of something deeper. Most people never stop to think about this. But if you have ever felt invisible standing next to 2 friends, you already know what I mean. Picture this scene for a moment. You are walking with 2 people you care about. They start laughing about something together. Their words flow back and forth so naturally. And suddenly you feel a shift inside your chest. It is like the air around you changed. You start wondering if you should say something. But then you hesitate because the timing feels off. You tell yourself they seem happy without you. You convince yourself stepping back is the right move. You shrink a little on the inside. You keep walking, but you feel further away. Not physically, but emotionally. This happens more often than people realize. It is one of the most common social experiences. Yet almost nobody talks about it openly. The truth is, this reaction says something about you. It says you are deeply aware of other people. It says you care about not being a burden. It says your emotional radar is always on. And that is not something to be ashamed of. In fact, it is something worth understanding. Let me explain why this happens to you. When 3 people are together, a natural pattern forms. 2 people will usually connect more easily. Conversations tend to flow between 2 voices. A third voice has to find the right gap to enter. That gap is harder to find than people think. Especially if you are someone who thinks before speaking. Especially if you are someone who reads the room. You are not being left out on purpose. But your brain tells you a different story. Your brain says they do not need you right now. Your brain says you will only interrupt the flow. Your brain says silence is safer than rejection. And so you stay quiet and pull yourself back. This pattern has a name in psychology. Researchers call it the third-person dynamic. It has been studied for decades by social scientists. Dr. Nathan Cole at a university in the Midwest found this. People with high emotional sensitivity struggle in trios. They pick up on micro-expressions and vocal tones. They sense when 2 people are deeply engaged. And they instinctively decide to step aside. This is not weakness, and it is not shyness either. It is an advanced form of social processing. Your brain is doing more work than most people realize. It is scanning the room and reading every signal. It is calculating whether your words will land well. It is measuring the emotional temperature around you. All of that happens in a fraction of a second. And the result is often the same conclusion. Maybe I should just stay out of this one. That thought feels protective in the moment. But over time it becomes a habit that isolates you. You start believing you are always the odd one out. You start thinking 3 is a crowd because of you. You start carrying guilt for simply being there. And none of that is fair to who you really are. Let me tell you about a woman named Clara. Clara had 2 close friends named Jenna and Mia. They would hang out together almost every weekend. Clara loved both of them with her whole heart. But every time they got together, something happened. Jenna and Mia would start talking about work. They had similar jobs in the same industry. Their conversations would get animated and fast. Clara worked in a completely different field. She did not have the same stories to share. So she would sit there smiling and nodding along. On the outside she looked perfectly fine. But on the inside she was sinking slowly. She kept telling herself it was no big deal. She kept saying she was just being sensitive. But after every hangout she felt drained and sad. She would go home and replay the whole evening. She would wonder if she said anything meaningful. She would wonder if they even noticed her silence. And the worst part was she blamed herself for it. She thought something was wrong with her personality. She thought she was not interesting enough for them. She thought maybe they only invited her out of pity. None of that was true, but it felt real to her. This is what high empathy does in social settings. It makes you hyper-aware of everyone else's needs. It makes you forget that your needs matter too. It makes you shrink so others can take up more space. And the cruel irony is that people like Clara are often the glue of the group. They are the ones who remember birthdays and check in. They are the ones who notice when someone is off. They are the ones who make others feel truly seen. But they rarely receive that same attention back. Not because their friends do not care about them, but because their friends assume they are okay. Quiet people are often mistaken for content people. But silence does not always mean satisfaction. Sometimes silence is the loudest cry for connection. Let me go deeper into the psychology of this. When you are in a group of 3, your brain activates. It activates what scientists call social monitoring mode. This mode is stronger in empathetic individuals. You are not just listening to the conversation. You are tracking facial expressions and body language. You are noticing who is leaning toward whom. You are sensing shifts in energy and enthusiasm. You are doing all of this without even trying. It is automatic and it is exhausting at times. Dr. Rachel Bennett published a study on this topic. She found that highly empathetic people use more energy. They use more mental energy in group conversations. Their brains are processing twice the information. They are not just hearing words, they are feeling them. They absorb the emotions of the people around them. And when 2 people are emotionally synced up, the third empathetic person feels like an outsider. Not because they are excluded, but because they feel it. The feeling is real even when the situation is not. That distinction is incredibly important to understand. Your feelings are valid, but they are not always facts. You can feel left out without actually being left out. You can feel unwanted without actually being unwanted. And recognizing that difference changes everything. It does not make the pain go away immediately. But it gives you a framework to work with. It gives you a way to challenge your own thoughts. It gives you permission to stay in the conversation, even when your instinct tells you to retreat. Now here is something else that happens with trios. The person who pulls back often has a fear of speaking. Not a fear of speaking in general necessarily, but a fear of saying something that falls flat. You think about your words very carefully before talking. You rehearse sentences inside your head first. And by the time you are ready to say something, the conversation has already moved on without you. That moment of hesitation costs you the chance to speak. And each mischance reinforces the same belief. The belief that you are not good at conversations. The belief that you are socially awkward or boring. But here is what I need you to hear right now. That hesitation is not a flaw in your character. That hesitation comes from a place of deep caring. You care about how your words affect other people. You care about adding something meaningful to the talk. You do not want to waste anyone's time with small talk. You want your contribution to actually matter. And that level of intentionality is incredibly rare. Most people just talk without thinking at all. Most people say whatever pops into their heads first. but you take the time to consider your impact. That is a gift even though it feels like a curse. Let me share another example with you now. There was a guy named Derek who felt this way too. Derek had two buddies named Marcus and Tyler. They played basketball together every Saturday morning. On the court, Derek was confident and loud. He would call plays and cheer his teammates on. But the moment they sat down after the game, things changed. Marcus and Tyler would start cracking jokes and laughing. They had a rhythm together that Derek could not match. Their humor was fast and reference-heavy. Derek would try to jump in with a comment, but it never landed the way he wanted it to. So he stopped trying and just listened instead. He became the quiet one at the table after every game. He told himself he was fine with just listening, but deep down he wanted to be part of the banter. He wanted to feel like an equal in the conversation. He wanted his jokes to get the same big laughs. But his fear of falling flat kept him silent. Over time, Derek started skipping the after-game hangouts. He would play basketball and then leave right away. Marcus and Tyler noticed and asked if he was okay. Derek said he was just busy with other things. But the truth was he was avoiding the discomfort. He was avoiding the feeling of being on the outside. And by pulling away, he created the very distance he feared. This is what psychologists call a self-fulfilling prophecy. You fear being left out, so you pull back to protect yourself. But pulling back makes others think you want space. So they give you space, and you feel even more alone. The cycle repeats itself over and over again. And each time the wall between you gets a little higher. Breaking that cycle requires something uncomfortable. It requires you to stay even when you want to leave. It requires you to speak even when you feel unsure. It requires you to tolerate the awkwardness of trying. Because the alternative is a slow and quiet isolation. And you deserve so much better than that. Now I want to talk about something important here. The tendency to step back in groups of 3 is not random. It often connects to deeper patterns from childhood. If you grew up in a home where you had to read the room, if you had a parent whose mood was unpredictable, if you learned early that being quiet kept you safe, then you developed a skill that served you back then. But that same skill can hold you back as an adult. You learn to monitor emotions to protect yourself. You learn to shrink to avoid conflict or tension. You learn that other people's comfort came first. And now you apply those same rules in friendships. You apply them without even realizing you are doing it. Every time you step back in a group of 3, you are honoring an old survival strategy. But you are no longer in that same environment. You are with people who actually want you there. You are with people who value your presence. And it is safe to take up space now. It is safe to say something even if it is imperfect. It is safe to laugh even if no one else does. It is safe to be seen fully as yourself. That might sound simple, but it is not easy. Rewiring those old patterns takes consistent effort. It takes small, brave moments of choosing to stay. It takes reminding yourself that you belong here. Not on the edges, but right in the center. You deserve to be in the middle of the conversation. You deserve to have your voice heard and valued. You deserve to feel like you are part of the group. Not as an afterthought, but as an essential piece. Because that is exactly what you are. People like you make friendships deeper and richer. People like you bring warmth that others cannot replicate. People like you notice the things that everyone else misses. Your sensitivity is not your enemy, it is your superpower. but only if you learn how to use it for yourself too. Not just for the benefit of everyone around you. There is also a practical side to this discussion. If you find yourself always pulling back in groups of 3, there are some things you can try starting today. First, give yourself permission to speak imperfectly. Not every comment needs to be profound or witty. Sometimes the simplest things create the best moments. Saying something like, "Oh, that reminds me of a thing." That is enough to enter a conversation naturally. You do not need a perfect opening line every time. Second, pay attention to your body language when you pull back. You might cross your arms or look at your phone. You might physically turn your body away from the group. These signals tell others that you want to be alone. Even when the opposite is true inside your heart. Try keeping your body open and facing the group. Make eye contact even when you are not speaking. Nod and react to show you are still engaged. These small changes send a powerful message to others. They say, "I am here and I want to be part of this." Third, talk to your friends about how you feel. This is the hardest one, but it is the most effective. You do not have to make it a dramatic conversation. You can say something casual and honest like this. "Hey, sometimes when we all hang out together, I get a little quiet, and I just want you to know. It is not because I am not having a good time. I just sometimes struggle to jump into the conversation." Most good friends will respond with understanding and care. They might even say they had no idea you felt that way. And that moment of vulnerability creates deeper bonds. It shows your friends a side of you they may not have seen. It invites them to include you more intentionally. And it breaks the cycle of silence and withdrawal. Now let me address something else that matters here. Some people reading this might think, just speak up. It is really not that complicated, stop overthinking it. But for people with high empathy, it is that complicated. Their brains are wired differently, and that is a fact. Telling an empath to stop overthinking is like this. It is like telling someone with glasses to just see better. It does not work because it ignores the root cause. The root cause is a nervous system that is highly tuned. A nervous system that picks up on everything around it. A nervous system that processes social information deeply. You cannot just turn that off with willpower alone. What you can do is build awareness around it. You can learn to notice when you are starting to withdraw. You can learn to catch yourself before you fully retreat. You can learn to say, "Okay, this is my pattern happening." And then you can make a conscious choice to do it differently. That conscious choice gets easier with practice over time. It never becomes completely effortless, and that is okay. But it does get more natural as you keep doing it. Every time you choose to stay, you build a new neural pathway. Every time you speak up, you weaken the old pattern. Every time you resist the urge to disappear, you grow. And growth is not about becoming a different person. It is about becoming more fully who you already are. Because the real you is not the quiet shadow in the corner. The real you is someone with incredible depth and warmth. The real you is someone who has so much to offer. The real you is someone who deserves to be heard. And the world needs more people like you, not fewer. So the next time you are in a group of 3 and you feel it, that familiar urge to shrink and fade into the background, I want you to take a deep breath and remember this. You are not too much, and you are not too little. You are not a burden, and you are not invisible. You are a person with a rare and beautiful quality. The quality of caring deeply about how others feel. And that quality makes you extraordinary, not awkward. It makes you valuable, not expendable in any group. Stay in the conversation even if your voice shakes. Say the thing even if it comes out a little clumsy. Laugh at your own joke even if no one else does. Because every time you show up fully as yourself, you give other people permission to do the same thing. And that is how real, genuine human connection is built. Not through perfect words or flawless social skills, but through the courage to be imperfect out loud. Through the bravery of letting yourself be truly seen. You have that courage already inside of you right now. You have had it all along, even when you could not feel it. And I believe with everything in me that you can do this. You can break the cycle of stepping back from life. You can move forward into the spaces you belong in. Because you do belong, and you always have belonged. No matter what that quiet voice in your head says. You are wanted and you are needed right where you are. Keep showing up and keep being your beautiful self. The right people will always make room for you. And you will find your voice gets stronger every single day.